The reason I haven't been quite as sold on Hooxi's calling as a lot of other people is partially because of these two games I saw at the Major, where Niko just does not get into the game at all. T-side Nuke against Na'Vi, he ends the half with 3 kills. And then T-side Inferno against VP, which is the game that everyone seems to agree they probably should have lost. Niko gets 1 kill. He ends up being 1 in 10 in the first 11 or 12 rounds, or I think 11 rounds of the T side. And when I looked at the calling in those games specifically, it felt like there was some odd calls that put Niko in weird situations that I want to examine and see, was Hooxi trying to activate Niko in those situations, or was Niko just kind of struggling and underperforming through no fault of Hooxi? Because I think that's the big question. Niko's been a little inconsistent here so far in CS2, and is Hooxi calling well around that and trying to activate him, or is Niko in bad positions and not given a chance? And here, already starting out on pistol round, he's got himself a kill. This T-side pistol seems to be partially based around Niko just being able to duel out of Squeaky, which is what you're expecting him to be able to do, but standard G2 win the pistol. So in general, G2 gives a lot of freedom to Niko to, take some aim duels if he wants. And with the third round being the first gun round, usually Wonderful's not going to have an op, which means Niko's going to feel fairly comfortable just dueling outside a little bit and trying to take down what are often going to be FAMASs and things like that at outer. And you actually have Hooxi over here that's going to be dropping onto Mini, and somehow Hooxi is going to end up getting 2 kills here to open up the round, which is, I think, Hooxi's kind of supposed to be the bait there, and Niko is probably looking to trade, but instead it's Niko that ends up getting both kills. Hooxi eventually gets traded, and Niko just doesn't quite have the timing to catch this player as Bit crosses out of hell. So we saw Bit does kill Hooxi. Niko knows that cross is possible, but he's probably still thinking he's more likely on the left side, but does spot him out, and now Bit's just completely trapped. But I think Bit's most likely just going to get caught here by Nexa. Then you have a round where G2's just going to win this round, I think. And Niko does actually find himself a kill. I thought that was going to be one of those rounds where Niko doesn't get a kill because he doesn't see anyone. It's not like he ends this half 3-1, by the way. He does actually end it like 3-9, I think, something like that. Actually, surprising they just called for a timeout at 3-0 up. I wonder what the reason for that timeout is. It must be a tack timeout, maybe just to make sure that they don't get overconfident. Maybe to change the call. Maybe they want the overstack in lobbies so that they... Oh, they're actually going to go for an upper rush? Okay. This is a call, I remember this call actually. I really don't like this call. But this is off of a pause. So one of Maui Snake's things that I've heard, I haven't heard him say this, but I've heard people reference Maui Snake saying this, that G2 off of tack pauses are one of the worst teams of all time. I think that's his argument. And they routinely call tack pauses and then lose. And that would be an example of that. I really hate the idea of just rushing upper on an anti-eco like this. It's Nuke, to be fair, and it's hard to, prevent that. Sometimes you do have to just gamble, even if you play slow, but... Okay. So Nexa just full blinds Niko. I think that's got to be a timing for Niko, though. I'll watch a couple games and update you after, because I think Niko's just supposed to come through after that flash. And then he's definitely not supposed to swing here, I don't think. That wide? I don't see a good reason for him to... I think he's just disoriented here. But once he gets his kill on Alexi B, his team is not coming out upper. Oh, Hooxi was coming out upper. Hooxi was supposed to be the bait. And this is one of the things about Hooxi. I mean, this entire strat seems to be that Hooxi comes out as the bait. The rest of the team is not going out. Oh, because they get mollied off. Okay, so the rest of the team is supposed to be coming out, but they get mollied off and they cancel. So Hooxi's basically just the bait here. Niko is, again, he's completely set up the frag out here. But there needs to be, the communication here, I think, is off. Because Niko, I really think Niko is just supposed to stop there and delay. The angles he could clear are like rafters up here. He could clear top hut, clear rafters, maybe clear left side silo. But they're Wonderful as a player. If G2 did a scouting report, Wonderful is a passive opper that very often starts heaven. He starts heaven a massive amount of the time. So you should be expecting him in heaven generally. And that means he's going to pivot over, and you don't necessarily want to be taking that duel on your own, because not only is Wonderful going to be fighting you from heaven, but so is there's also going to be a fight player fighting you from silos potentially. So one of the things that you'll see Kerrigan, for example, talk about is trying to activate players and put them in good situations when they're having a rough game. And notice early on, like, oh, they're not doing too well. Let's run a strat where they're guaranteed to get a kill almost, so that they can feel a little more confidence in this game. And that's kind of the type of thing I'm talking about. Anyways, Hooxi gets his way into lower, instantly opens a single door. That's going to draw at least a little bit of a pivot. I'm guessing maybe Wonderful will drop lower. Oh, you've already got Bit in secret. So Hooxi's in a pretty good situation, but he's playing just for this, which means Bit, there's a good chance Bit is probably going to clear him here. Yeah. That's not an uncommon play. Players will do that. He opened the single door, which the entire point of that, he was going to see if a player had rotated in. I think maybe the glass was already broken, so he didn't see it. And now Niko's going to do one of his most favorite things in the history of Counter-Strike. I don't know if that's true, but one of the things I know Niko the most for, which is come straight through the front of the outer smokes. He is incredibly consistent at making that work and getting kills off of that. And his duel is against Alexi B. So this strat seems to be, you draw a bit lower, and if you draw a bit to lower, because the ramp player has to rotate lower off of a squeaky drop, you can't really drop behind him, that necessarily will almost always draw Wonderful down into ramp. That, because who else is going to rotate? It's got to be your Heaven player. Which means Alexi B is very likely to be outer alone with a rifle, and Niko's trying to isolate him. And that's a kill I think Niko generally gets. I think this is actually a really good strat. This strat, not only is it a good strat, but it actually does exactly what it's meant to do. Niko just scrolls past Alexi B here, and not only that, but he also he goes here instead of going through garage, which might have worked better for him. But you've got to do a little bit of both, right? You can't be too one-dimensional. So this play makes perfect sense, and I think maybe 4 times out of 5, probably Niko gets that kill. And then you've got Nexa that actually made his way out squeaky, which, you know, this type of game at the major is exactly why I was so... I'm not high on Nexa. I don't think Nexa's like the best player ever, but I think he is a lot better than people give him credit for. And this type of, you know, you need your lobby player to be willing to take these types of lurks, especially when rounds are going a little bit sideways. And he knows the rotate from Heaven is likely, gets the right timing, hits a nice shot. And then you've got a 2v3 now for Na'Vi, where you just group up in upper. They should be able to trade on the player back site, which they do. And Bit only is able to get 1. So a good round from Hunter, which is exactly what you need. I mean, it's tough if you're like a 2-man squad to get too much done. You need Hunter to be able to do some things. And Hunter's been struggling a bit in CS2 as well, which is... It makes Hooxi's job hard, right? It means Hooxi might have to run some strats that kind of try and get Niko into a game, because if Hunter's struggling, then you need Niko, right? Monasty's always good. You need Niko to be activated as well. You don't have like a fallback plan where you're like, well, we'll just run some normal strats and win, you know, tactically or something. You still need the fragging. So Niko with the cross, a little delayed. He almost could have got caught there. One of the things Na'Vi do love to do, they're one of the teams that love to break the outer smoke more than almost anyone else. And they're going to throw an upper. He's just losing duels to Alexi B. Just straight up. Okay, so the play design is to get Hooxi and Nexa out upper with really good utility. I mean, even Niko, he throws this molly into mini. They've got flashes coming out. The plan is for Hooxi and Nexa to get entries, and they don't necessarily fail. I mean, Hooxi maybe could have got that kill onto Wonderful, but that's a really awkward situation. And you even have Monasy coming out after them, right? So you have 3 players coming out through Squeaky with good flashes. I think you even have, yeah, Hunter's even throwing flashes for them. This is entirely designed to get Nexa and Hooxi out upper and get them kills. So I can see why Niko has the Galil here. The problem is Galil outer just sucks. You know, Galil's biggest problem is the range. And so it's really unfortunate that he's the guy that ends up with the Galil. Personally, I would have rather had Hunter with the Galil. I think Hunter is the most obvious person to have a Galil, because Niko's planning on taking some pretty standard, like straight up duels. Niko just seems happy with the Galil. And maybe that's one of those Simple things. Like, you might have heard before, Zeus and Simple. Simple would take the Deagle and Zeus would take the AK. And Simple has said before, it's because Zeus was never going to kill people with a deagle, but I could get kills with a deagle. So the combined ability to kill people might be higher than Hooxi with a Galil and Niko with an AK. I could see the argument for that, but still, Niko's in a pretty good spot. The upper push does go bad, but that's not the reason Niko doesn't get a kill. So I was actually planning on skipping this round, but somehow G2 actually win this despite having a 4v5 to begin with, and they have Glocks and Deagles. I mean, literally, m0NESY has a Glock here, and I think he gets a kill. So Niko doesn't get a kill. We know that because he gets 3 kills this half. m0NESY, ooh, this is a nice flash. Oh wait, is that a okay, no, he's holding a Zeus. It just looks weird. Drops in with the Zeus, and he actually just kills Imma. Oh my god. Oh my god. What? Okay, what happens? What allows this to happen? Nexa gets a kill on JL early. He spots Imma. He probably calls that to m0NESY. Where's the initial kill? Because Nexa does kind of open up this round, I think. Nexa gets the initial kill in this game, in this round. He kills JL. So he's spamming the deagle. There's a lot of players outer, so I think JL maybe JL gets aggressive. No, he's just gonna, I remember this round. Yeah, he just kills JL jiggling. And that draws Imma over, which is actually kind of funny because I think part of m0NESY's play is he's supposed to catch Imma in mini. but he actually catches him as he runs back around. Oh, wow. Okay, this is a really clever strat. This is really clever. I really like this. On the other end, you have Niko that's gonna try and trade on Alexi B, and Niko, he doesn't whiff, but I think this is another one where he probably gets his kill most of the time. This is another kill he probably gets more often than not, I think. But then he's just gonna end up rotating over to lower, and m0NESY is just gonna win the round. m0NESY's already got 3, spins around, gets 4, and you have to say Nexa opened up that round. But that's a really interesting strat for such a low buy. To be able to win a T-side like Eco on Nuke, one of the harder maps to win Ecos on. In CS2, I believe Nuke has like a 92% second round conversion rate or something, like against the second round force from the Ts. It's like crazy. Now you've got not the greatest buy for G2. And again, Niko, the problem is he's already gone for this and there's no pressure this time. He just lurks through. Now, this is a spot where there is likely to be an opening because there's a kill upper on JL again, right? And we've seen how that rotate has gone several times. Wait, no, the kill... Yeah, the kill is the ramp push. And Bit is the ramp player, so nothing too surprising. There's no reason for Niko to push through this smoke, I don't think. Like, they want to go for the upper player. Are they throwing up? They're not even faking upper. Plus, there's a molly in hut. So he knows JL has pushed hut. So I guess he's just thinking that there's likely an opening in mini. And maybe he could win the round for his team. It's tough, right? Because if you sit here, you can get killed by a guy's stairs, which is rough. He could just sit Africa, though, and just hold. They're 5v4. He could lurk a little bit later. He's lurking off of nothing there, though. And the question is, like, did Hooxi call for that, or did Niko just think he had a timing, right? And if Niko thinks he has a timing, there's no reason not to go for that. But I mean, it did just give Na'Vi an AK and a way back into the round. Although, in his benefit, it did actually kind of say, like, tell G2 what setup was being played by Na'Vi. Because you have Alexi B in mini, which means they're kind of empty on outer, and you can kind of expect the lobby push to be coming in right afterwards. And 2v1, they should just be able to win this. Okay, so you have another outer cross smokes. You had Alexi B save in the previous round, so he's actually gonna have the AK boosted up. And it looks like, did they literally just try and nade this exact spot? I think they did, didn't they? Oh my god. Oh my god. And it hits the thing. That is hilarious. They knew that exact play was coming. Okay, so basically nothing happened after that in the last round, so we'll skip over to this. And Niko still only has 3 kills. I mean, he's being out-fragged by Hooxi. A couple questionable maybe plays, and a couple plays where he's really been set up for success, you know? Or he's been... When I say set up for success, some of it is just setting him up to take an aim duel against Alexi B, who is, on gun rounds, is about the same kills per round, or actually less kills per round and KD than Hooxi, right? So Niko against Alexi B, 1v1 outer, if you can isolate that, you're taking that all day. And they've isolated that several times and Niko has just come up short. I mean, Alexi B's hit some nice shots. It's not like Niko's been whiffing, but a lot of them he had an opportunity if he just, you know, if he hit a shot that he might normally hit. Then here, I'm not sure. This timing is weird. Niko is gonna throw the flashes. He's gonna throw double flashes, come down the ladder, and beat Hunter out. This can't be the way this strat is supposed to go. So Hooxi's supposed to go out first. Oh, okay. So this is basically the same strat we saw on the first or second gun round, where Hooxi died coming out hut, Niko killed Alexi B and Mini, and then they got cut off by the molly. Now Hunter is alone in hut. I don't think JL even could have had time to get behind Silo. He would have had to go the other way around. And then Hunter is just clearing. And he just... Am I being too harsh if I say Hunter's kind of just baits Niko there? Niko surely is not supposed to be going out first in that scenario. It should be Hunter. Maybe the idea is that Niko is the most likely to get an entry kill, and so if you're 4v5, you want Niko to go out first, but the timing is all off. I want to show you the timing on this, because the timing is completely off. I mean, you can't have Niko throw 2 flashes and then run down the ladder and then still have the time for it. Okay, here's the molly, flash, flash. None of the flashes get him, because maybe I'm betting Hunter or Hooxi is supposed to throw a flash that actually pops out, because there's flashes you can throw off of this wall that pop out and will blind this type of player. Yeah, I don't know. That's weird. That's the only round where I think Niko specifically wasn't given a chance. And this is the other game I was talking about. So this is the game where James crashes at like 12-11 or whatever it was, and probably G2 was going to lose this game, more likely than not, if we're being honest. But Niko, the thing I didn't like about this, not only does Niko start at 110, but there's a strat later in the half that I think is really odd. I really didn't like it, and Niko ends up dying without getting a kill. And it's kind of similar to what I call electronic execs. Someone please tell me if you have a different name for this, or there's a name that other people use that I just can't think of, because this is just a name that my team that I was on used at the time when I first kind of like discovered, you know, I've seen these before, but I first used them enough to come up with a name. The idea is that it's what Donk, Chopper, or Spirit do with Donk. There's strats that are meant to get your entry fragger a kill, because most of the time, right, your strats are not intended to get your entry fragger a kill. Your entry fragger is supposed to make space, which is great, right? 100% cool. You want to do that. However, there are also strats where, you know, you'll have like the mollies will land. It'll be like flash pops, mollies land, entry fraggers out. I think the key definition of these types of strats is that flashes are landing as the player is already out. So like a god flash will land, and then that player is like swinging around here, and as he swings here, you have a flash pop here, and then you have a flash pop here, and he swings around here, right? So you have flashes pop as he continues forward in the site. They're like directly intended for him to blind the following angle he's about to peek when he's already peeking. So this is the right game, but actually he starts out 2 in 10, not 1 in 10. I just somehow managed to misread that when I went back to double check. So going for some control at first, Hooxi's generally leading, but Niko's going to take the duel on the player corner. The only problem I have with this is you are again setting up straight for a B hit, which is gambly. It's very much gambly, and you could just run into a stack. However, I think when it comes to Inferno, you can have execs that are so good that it's almost impossible to hold the site with pistols. And you know that VP are on a situation where they have a couple of saved guns. They have 2 saved guns, but they don't have a full buy. And so they're unlikely to be 5 stacking a bomb site here, and they're definitely not going to have the utility to actually hold unless VP went for something like a reforce, which is rare. Very few teams actually go for that. So I like the idea of this a lot more than that upper rush. With the utility they used, it was going to be very hard for VP to hold the site. So first gun round, Niko's known as a great banana defaulter. You're going to take some chip damage if you're going to be defaulting banana, and that's just kind of what you have to accept. However, Niko is generally going to be behind Hooxi here. So Hooxi's taking the real risk where he's going to take a lot more utility damage in theory. And Niko's just ready to support. If a flash gets thrown, he's going to throw the counter flash. And I really like this progression at Banana. Niko's ready to throw the counter flash for Hooxi. Then he starts moving forward. m0NESY's holding the angle. Then they're ready for pushes. And there's a small downtime here. But if Niko does get peaked, Hooxi can swing on the trade. And you need Niko to be throwing this molly because Hooxi wants to be the one going out first. So this is all making perfect sense. Then you're going to boost Niko up here. And I'm not sure if this is in the time period where people kind of, for a while, this angle was really, really strong. And it's not that it's not still strong, but people have figured some spots that they can flash it from. Now, this flash from Fame that's going to come through, if you're at this angle here, at least in CSGO, you could hear this. I'm pretty sure you could hear this. And usually you'll have a player here. So it's a little confusing because you can see G2 are moving back to set up for a B hit, right? But you have nobody playing anti-flash. Maybe m0NESY's supposed to peek to trade here, but like Hooxi's walking back for the bomb. Surely Hunter could have just given him the bomb. Does he need to set up back here? He's just like looking around. I really don't understand. There's some comms going on here that are really weird. And Niko's just gonna end up dying. He's just full blinded. You could, I mean, James has an op too, right? I guess the idea is like m0NESY could pull out his op and trade at any point. This just doesn't feel right. It feels like something could be different. But okay, so that flash kind of hangs for Niko. That flash does hang. Like, Niko maybe isn't expecting, maybe he's staring at his crosshair. m0NESY dodges the flash. Okay. If m0NESY can dodge that flash from back here, where he sees it for like half as long, then I think we could say Niko could dodge that flash. The only reasoning here that makes sense is that Niko thinks someone's going to peek the trade. So he's like, I'm going to accept getting blind because someone's going to trade me, right? Because someone could peek before that flash. But there is no trade. At worst, m0NESY can maybe lock down the make sure nobody can get away. But, I mean, this is admittedly well done by VP, right? The flash comes out, and then James is ready for this repeak. So it may well be that this is the way VP or G2 normally deal with this type of aggression. And they have the players at the back, and they're just ready for m0NESY to be getting that trade. Especially if you're thinking, well, Hooxi here, like maybe G2 have played Hooxi in this position a decent amount of times, and when he dodges the flash, he just loses the second duel and they just get 2K'd. So like, screw it, we'll have m0NESY play that angle. It's definitely possible, I guess, that's the reason behind it. It just feels like there could be a player supporting more actively so that Niko can get traded. And by the way, you might think like Niko could get blind and drop off. The problem with Niko dropping off is if there isn't an aggression, if nobody peeks out, then it just tells VP that he's there, which is not really what you want because they were being pretty quiet on the map and he could have gone anywhere. All right, so another pretty standard aggression. They're going to go for the molly, re-molly. Classic play, re-molly after the first one to prevent the aggression. Then Niko's going to be the first player forward this time around, but already you had VP waste a lot of their nades, and G2's actually just going to go straight for a B hit. So I think the idea here is that VP, they were playing heavy on B in the previous round. So, you know, you're kind of calling their bluff, saying they're not going to be playing heavy on B in this round. And Niko's in a good spot. I mean, he's not the first player out. He definitely could have and would have got this kill onto Flit if Hunter hadn't gotten the kill just before him. Hunter probably got like the last bullet off. So Niko's in a decent spot, even though they get caught off. He's not the first player out. Fame has 44 health, and Niko doesn't hit him a single time here, I think. I mean, this is a nice shot by Fame. But I think in general, Niko probably usually finds that. He's set up in a good spot. Niko very clearly is set up in a good spot there. Whether Fame hits a nice shot or not, Niko's not set up poorly there, right? It's not Hooxi's fault that Niko dies. So this is, again, one of the kind of situations that you could question, is that Niko's got a deagle here, right? And you've got m0NESY with an AK, which makes sense. You've got Hunter with a Galil, and you've got Nexa with a Galil. And Niko with a deagle. And this must be like the Simple and Zeus thing where you're thinking like Nexa having a Galil is, you know, having a deagle, he's just not going to get the kills. But also I think part of it is that, you know, this portion of the strat, you're more likely to take aim duels, right? These players are moving up apartments, they're dry clearing some things, and they need to be able to trade. So it makes sense to give them the rifles, but that does leave Niko with a deagle, which doesn't put him in the best possible situation to get any kills here. And also, you know, if you're going for this type of play, you might be giving him a Tech 9 instead, but I'm sure Niko's just more comfortable with the Deagle. He is second in. He is in a pretty good situation, and he should usually probably hit that shot on Jam. I'm not saying everyone hits that shot on Jam, but he probably usually hits that shot on Jam, if I'm being honest. Like, this is... Jam is set up, and I think Niko just... Niko takes this extra half second to line up this shot, and that extra half second is where Jam moves, right? Or does he just, I don't know, does he get CS2'd? Yeah. But the whole strat collapses, right? So maybe Niko could have got one kill there. I don't even think he necessarily whiffs. I think James just moves right when he lands, like, hits the shot. That's one where you could question if Niko's set up perfectly, right? He's given a Deagle instead of a Galil, instead of an AK. He's in the, like, kind of easier side of the push. He's second in as well. But if that strat doesn't work, then you're just losing. But, I mean, that is just the reality of CS. It's not going to be every round that, you know, you can set up your player, especially on T-side Inferno. You know, you're going to have to do some execs sometimes, and you can put Niko in a decent spot, but sometimes the execs aren't going to work. So here we've got him with the Deagle. Going to try and chase down Fame. This is kind of an individual play. You do have Hooxi here with the flash to set him up if possible. So, I mean, Hooxi is literally just spending his whole round as, like, the utility bitch. And it's like, yeah, I've got this flash. If it looks like it's going to be useful, then I'll throw it for you. And I'm never, like, planning on seeing anyone. So nothing happens in this round. We're just going to skip to the next. So there's the Molly re-Molly yet again. Niko's going to edge the smoke, which is super unfortunate that this even exists, but apparently is intended. And then he's going to be dry clearing, which is cool. And you have to take some risks when you're 4v5. So Niko dry clearing is, you know, a play that you're going to be looking at as a play that makes a lot of sense in these situations. Oh, I thought he crashed for a second. I was like, what the hell? Okay. So his dry clear, and he did it pretty early on in the round, which means they have plenty of time to draw out the utility. They can move back and reset. So Niko himself, just by dry clearing here and having the confidence to do that, ends up putting them in a pretty solid position to win the round, or at least to have a chance at winning the round from the 4v5. And G2's fairly execute heavy right now, which isn't necessarily what you want if you want Niko to be doing too well. You want to see, like, that what he was doing on Nuke, where he was like, you know, the team was baiting for him to get things done, is where he's going to get the most kills. However, it's Inferno, and Inferno is a fundamentally different map than Nuke, right? And so you're going to have him in situations like this. And this time around, he is first out. I think this might be a concept they're actually running with, because we've seen this a couple times now. Maybe they were running with this concept at the major, which is that if we're 4v5, we might want Niko leading out first because he's most likely to get an entry kill. And if he gets an entry kill, then we have a chance back into the round. But that does leave Niko, he's not most likely to get a kill here. He is also injured, so that might be the reason behind it. This is what I mean by there's different types of plays, right? Because this play, there's not flashes landing while Niko is out. The flashes just land early, right? If one of these flashes landed while Niko is out, if they had a second flash, like if Hooxi throws, he actually throws one, and then they wait. So they're waiting for counter util, and then he throws the second one. Okay. But if he throws that flash once Niko's already out, then that gives Niko a much better chance of getting the kill. Although I'm not sure it actually would have ended up being relevant in this situation. Oh, he just gets naded for 90 damage? With armor? With armor. Is that one nade? 90 damage against armor. Oh, it's two nades. Okay, they just blew up the exact same moment. That is unfortunate for Niko. I mean, yeah, Niko is the first player out here, but if you look at the spawns, let me guess. Niko's got the best spawn. Yeah, this is... Wait, is Hunter's spawn slightly better? I can never remember. These spawns are, like, almost exactly the same. But, I mean, Hunter's not usually a banana player, so it makes sense if Niko goes out first. Hunter's spawn is slightly better, isn't it? Did Hunter just tell Niko to go first anyways? Astralis used to do this play. Lots of teams do this play. You have these good spawns, especially if you have a low buy. You get them with a Tech 9 or a Mac 10, and you just go for fast car. Hold up. Does Hooxi need to be running in here? this is what people were talking about with Stewie at Dallas, that he understands spacing a little bit better, and sometimes Hooxi runs in with no possible trade. It actually looks like he kind of forced Niko forward there. Like, Niko didn't want to run in there, and Hooxi ran in, so he ran in after him. Like, what happens here? Okay, so there's the top banana util. Niko's already in. Niko's got 7 health. Hooxi gets pushed forward, and Hooxi's got 60 health. Then a nade gets thrown from CT. That's the 3rd nade the CTs have thrown. It could be that there was a nade drop CT. VP do like doing that. However, James shot his op already, and he's almost only there when they have 3 players there. In this case, it seems like they probably have 3B right now, in which case you just have to wait. Right? Like, it sucks. You want to get ahead of the rotate, but you have 2 players that are injured. Even if you don't know they have 3B, I think you kind of just have to wait and hope that the rotate doesn't get enough work done. You're not losing anything. Like, the last flash, when did the last flash get thrown? I think Hooxi threw the last flash. So Hooxi had 2 flashes. There's 1. Then here's the second flash. That's the last flash. Niko's meant to go in here, but he cancels. Niko cancels because he knows something's not right. This is a play that's meant to get Niko in first to try and catch someone off guard. He cancels, but Hooxi, it just feels like he kind of panics here, and Hooxi goes in, dies, and then Niko's like, well, I gotta go in now too, and Niko dies, and then the round is basically screwed. Yeah, I don't know. I really think that might just be Hooxi just panicking. Maybe the communication isn't perfect, because I think Niko knows that there's 3 players there. And maybe he didn't communicate that back, so Hooxi is thinking he's trying to isolate 1 player, which is much more understandable if he thinks he's trying to isolate 1 player. You could still argue maybe he shouldn't be doing that anyways, but it's definitely much more understandable. By the way, I'm pretty sure this is after a pause too. So I like the theory behind this strat, that you do sometimes need to get aggressive, but VP obviously reads this. VP knows something's coming up. That's why Niko gets dunked with nades. They have 3 players B, and they throw car retake util right after. Not only do they have 3 players B, they have a 4th player drop utility in CT spawn. So yeah, this is what I was mentioning that like Maui Snake had talked about. The theory behind the strat makes a lot of sense, but VP obviously get the better of them in this case, and that they see this happening. They're like ready for it. They're so ready for it. But still, in the mid round, it does feel like Hooxi sometimes panics like that, and it screws up the spacing. So Hooxi's gonna go first, misses his molly. Okay, that's very unfortunate, which means Niko has to throw his molly here. Just fine. It doesn't actually end up meaning anything, but that ends up putting them in a really weird spot. And then Niko he just gets caught. I don't think he wants to be here. I think he wants to go into the corner, right? He's trying to go into the corner. He jumps in. Oh, he's trying to run up. And Flit is completely blind. Flit is fully blind. From Hooxi's flash, I'm guessing. From m0NESY's flash. So m0NESY's going to throw this flash. Flit is full white, but he's already peeked out to spam that spot. That's just a really awkward round. Yeah, that's a really awkward round. Yeah, next gun round, you have Niko on a Galil. Again, I find this very odd. You have Nex on an AK, Hooxi's on a Galil, but you got Nex on the AK, you've got m0NESY on the AK, and you've got Niko on a Galil, which just doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to me. And again, he's going to be the first guy out. It looks like m0NESY must throw. But if m0NESY's going to be at the back here, why doesn't he have the Galil? I guess the point is that, you know, you go through this banana smoke, you're likely to die, and you might actually end up not having your weapon retrievable. So I take that back. I think it makes a good amount of sense. But this is the second round in a row they've gone for this play where they flash through that smoke, and Flit's just ready for that. He's ready for... He probably even knows that, oh yeah, they think we got lucky. They're probably going to go for the same exact strat, and they go for the same strat, but he's just going to throw the nade as soon as that flash pops this time, which is genius, really, if that was like the thought process. Because G2 have been getting peppered very hard by nades for a lot of this half, and it makes sense to adjust that. But it just in general, I don't know. G2 aren't doing too bad in banana. I think I almost said that it feels like they're losing the banana control battle, but I actually think they're taking a good amount of damage, but they're generally ending up in pretty good situations. So I think they're fine. But this round ends up going really weird. I just scrolled through this round beforehand. So the smoke lands. And I think this round is honestly on Nexa. I think Niko expects Nexa to do something that he doesn't do. So in this case, This is like the opposite. If we remember the first gun round, or like round 3, I think, Niko comes through the smoke here. It's actually second round on the anti-eco. Niko comes through the smoke, and there's 3 players coming up lane. In this case, they're doing the direct opposite. So there's going to be 3 players wrapping arch, and Niko's going to be coming up lane. And you probably want it to look pretty much the same, but Nexa is going to miss his molly. And maybe there's just no way to throw this molly from apartments. I think there is, though, because he gets mollied off. It looks like there's a way to throw this. It looks like there's something to hit, but he misses it. So he doesn't push Norbert out of his position, which means Niko is in a really awkward spot. And not only that, but the arch wrap is in a really awkward spot also because of all the spots that Norbert can now be in. So Nexa then gets smoked off because they know he's here. And he doesn't throw what should be a flash. I'm guessing there's supposed to be a flash from Nexa that lands about here. I think most site hits usually have that. It usually bounces past and it lands like here, and a lot of the time it blinds like, wait, does it land like here and it blinds this guy? Is that what it is? I can't remember what exactly that flash they throw. Whatever. It's not important. I don't know why I went on that. So next is going to wrap around. Niko's waiting for the push through. So the timing on this feels all off. Like the timing on this push through, this no longer looks like the 3-player up truck hit, I don't think. This looks like only the one play that they're going for, but maybe they got smoked off or mollied off, mollied back, something. But what the timing that really fucks everything up is, look what Nexa does. So Nexa's coming through boiler. Niko's probably looking at his radar. He hears Norbert and Pit. Well, it's the major, it's playoffs. He might not hear Norbert. Let's say he doesn't hear Norbert, but he goes to clear that. He's thinking Nexa's coming through here and Nexa's going to catch my Pit. So he checks Pit here and then he starts moving towards site, right? Makes perfect logical sense. Everything there makes sense. But if you look at what Nexa does, Nexa pivots, checks the flank, and then turns around and he's not ready for the trade. Not only that, but he pulls out a nade. And that's, in my mind, that's just straight up miscommunication. Maybe the delay on the arch wrap is a little weird, but I still don't think I can blame that on Hooxi. If anyone gets blamed for that, it has to be Nexa. So Niko goes for fast control here. m0NESY boosts him. There's flashes. So this is the type of play where you're expecting Niko to have pretty good engagements. There's flashes to blind anybody that would be fighting him. Mollies land very quickly. This is a strat that's definitely set up for Niko to get something done, to get himself a kill. This made a lot of sense. You had an initial 5v4. Hooxi got a kill to open up the round, and then Hooxi's going to be making his way through CT. Does not have the right timing, but now Niko wants to force this because he knows a player's stuck in CT. So Niko's going to go through. And I wish there was better flashes. You can see it's kind of makeshift here. Nexa's staying in apartments, which is fine. It would be really nice if one of them had another flash. m0NESY's just going to do his best. So they're kind of like calling on the fly here. It's like clear that they're calling on the fly. Okay, we got to beat this rotate. m0NESY's clearing, and then he goes, oh shit, I got to throw a flash. Niko is just kind of committed, and he's going to win the fight. Everything makes sense here. Everything is actually set up pretty effectively. As well as it can go for that type of situation, I think it's set up for Niko to do well. You know, this is a call probably from Niko where he just knows this timing makes sense. Or, I mean, Hooxi could have called this as well. But Niko might be, like, even leading this in the mid-round. He dodged the shot. He even looks like he knows that there's probably an op towards B because James wasn't arch or CT, which is where you'd expect him. So he knows the op is probably there. And he doesn't cover the CT smoke. That's unfortunate on the timing. I don't know. This isn't like a video meant to like critique whether Niko's doing everything perfectly. I remember watching this live and being like, dude, why didn't he just post? But he's worried about the other side as well. But I think Niko is probably just supposed to post here. It felt like Niko is supposed to post here. I think most operators just post on that CT smoke, and Niko's thinking maybe like a rifler. But regardless, this round, Niko is set up initially to get a kill. He's set up really well initially. After being set up initially, the round kind of deteriorates, but he sets himself up well and his teammates react around him well. Hooxi ends the half with one kill. That was an impactful kill he got in that round. There's a couple of questionable situations, but the questionable situations seem to be when rounds break down, what is their strategy? What is their idea? And I want to watch a couple more demos, but it seems like the idea might just be that if you go 4v5, Niko should lead out first, which means if they open up rounds 4v5, that they're they're not in great position. Like the chances for Niko to have a bad half go up drastically if Hooxi's just having a bad game. And so I could see how Hooxi's individual performance could lead to Niko really struggling. But I don't know, everything, especially in the Nuke game, Niko was set up incredibly well. I think Niko was set up incredibly well in the first game. Second game, it's Inferno T-side. And I think as well as you can get set up on T-side Inferno, Niko was set up on T-side Inferno. Got a bit unlucky, and I think there was a couple rounds where the team kind of messed up around him. But I think I'm willing to say Hooxi's calling seems to be pretty good. I was those are the two games I was questioning when I watched them live. Those were the two games I was questioning what's going on here. But I don't see a problem with anything going on there.